There are general misconceptions around Islamic finance, the Islamic banking system. Profits, which is one of the major driving forces in any market, is often looked out for in the Islamic banking system. Well, I tell you to sit back, watch, and enjoy as we highlight ethical issues around Islamic finance and some of its challenges. Hello, and welcome to Islamic Finance Weekly. I am Rahma Say Muhammad. And on this episode, we'll be discussing the high risk of Islamic finance and the ethical features surrounding it. Today, I'm in University of Lagos to meet the President, Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals, Professor Tajuddin Olalekan Yusuf. And today with me is the President, Chairman, Governing Council, Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals, Professor Tajuddin Olalekan Yusuf. Thank you so much, sir, for having us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks you for having me.
And sir, please, could you highlight the ethical issues around Islamic finance so that we can properly understand the concept of Islamic finance?
Yes, Islamic finance is defined, and everything that has to do with the defined nature of the concept must be fair, fairness, equity, social justice, risk sharing, not harming others and not allowing others to harm you. Because God desires ease for us, not hardship. Even when we are conducting business transactions, despite the fact that the human nature is prone to being greedy, to being miserly, but Allah says, وَمَنْ يُكَّشُ نَفْسَهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. He who can control his greed will succeed, will prosper. That is the basis of Islamic finance. So all its financing modes are meant to do what? To share profit, to have a right in the profit out of that transaction. And that is why Islam forbids dealing in interest, dealing in things that are ambiguous, dealing in something that smack of gambling, speculating.
Yes.
It has to be real value that we are transacting among ourselves.
Yes. And so due to these ethical features of Islamic finance, I'm sure it goes through challenges that you could possibly highlight for us what the challenges are in the Islamic banking system.
Because Islamic finance is relatively nascent. It's very not up to a century that it started.
Yes.
Compared with the conventional setting that has been there for decades, centuries.
Yes.
You understand? So it is facing that nascent challenges, teething problems in terms of the financial asset, the volume of financial assets in finance. Islamic finance is far mega if compared with the conventional setting. That's number two, the challenge of awareness. Most people are not aware of Islamic finance because it is very nascent. Most universities in this country are not offering courses in Islamic finance. And there are few people too, experts in this field. I went abroad to be educated in Islamic finance.
Wow, interesting.
So many of us, so we are growing, it's still very growing.
Yes.
And only very few people are investing in it. And the more people get to know about it, the more they'll be interested in it. Because the mere fact that you are doing away with interest, most people wonder, how can you conduct a business? How can you set up a bank that will not take interest? And that is to tell you that interest is fraught with a lot of issues, problems. Most companies are folded up because they couldn't pay back their debts. But in Islamic finance, it is not all about that. It's all about risk sharing, not risk transfer. When I go to the bank and I want funds to fund my business, the business itself must be ethical in the sense that I must not be transacting things that are unethical, things that are not fair, things that are tends towards oppressing fellow human beings or degrading their human dignity. So we should, so Islamic finance says we must ensure that the business in question is ethical. Ethical in the sense that it brings it does not derogate the right of the individual against the public, nor the right of the public against the individual. It balances it.
The Islamic finance system is really interesting.
Very.
Like it's an interesting system of banking, and I would like you to tell us the major differences between the Islamic banking system and the conventional banking system.
The main differences are in the issue of what is the role of money in the whole transaction system. What is the role of money? What are we attributing to money? Is it what money is really? Because what money is to us in Islam is quite different from what is money in the capitalist system or Western system. Money is just a store of value, a means of exchange. It shouldn't be the basis of transaction. And that is why in Islamic finance, every transaction we want to get in touch with must be asset-backed, must be asset-based, so that it will deliver values to the counterparts. Also, Islamic finance shuns and forbids dealing in interests as opposed to the Western system, which is basically interest-based. In Islam, it should be interest-free.
Yes.
Because, and that is why Islamic finance targets the formal sector. The formal sector is the focus, and that's how it derives and delivers values to the counterparts. Yes. If I need any money now, I have my entrepreneurial ideas. I need to go to the Islamic. When I go to the Islamic bank, they see me as partner, yes, not as a borrower. You understand? And they see, so we think together. Once the transaction is going to be ethical, is going to be Sharia compliant, then they are ready to be my partner. So they'll bring their money and we do the business together. When there's profit, we share it according to already agreed formula. And if there is a loss, I only lose and it is the loss is not due to my negligence on my part.
Yes.
Not the bank.
Yes.
So whatever comes out of it, I only lose my effort while the bank loses its money. So that is how, so it gives every entrepreneur the drive to go to be innovative, to be innovative, to grow the economy. And that's one major difference between the Islamic finance and the conventional.
Yes, sir, you made mention of it being a partnership. It means I don't get to lose.
Yeah.
I just get to get better. So could you tell me in particular, why should I as an individual embrace the Islamic banking system over the conventional system?
Yeah, because it gives you rest of mind.
Yes.
And you don't slave, it doesn't enslave you. You see the bank, you are not afraid, yeah, of entering the bank, because what they are interested in is to making life easy for you, so that you are not overburdened with debts. You see, they are partners to you. So the bank itself ensures that you succeed because they are part of the business. They contribute their expertise to ensuring that the business succeeds, because they are partners. Unlike the conventional, whereby they say, okay, you have taken the money, we don't want to know how you spend the money, just, yes, pay us our interest. No. Yes. Islamic banks will ensure that they pursue, they follow up, they monitor, they supervise how you are spending the money, because it's not your money, it's our money.
Right.
It's our money, because some people have placed their money in the bank for investment purposes. So Islamic finance is the best way to go, because they make funds available to you and it is not under very stringent conditions. They make things easy for you. They are interested in you succeeding, because there is also the moral and the ethical, foundation for all these things. Because the law of Islam is all about fulfillment. The objectives of the lawgiver, Allah, is that to preserve your faith, to preserve your life, to preserve your intellect, to preserve your posterity, and to also preserve your wealth. Yeah. Preservation of wealth is part of the teachings of Islam, and that is why Islamic finance exists Islamic finance exists to promote just that.
Yes, sir. As the president of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals, sir, could you give us some of the challenges the Institute faces in Nigeria as of now?
Just like the Islamic finance as a concept is facing, the problem of awareness. How do you make everybody to be aware of it? It costs money. Though we are deploying technology to make that one easy. Secondly, is the problem of the dearth of experts in this field. You have very little people. Most people are knowledgeable in the Western setting, and they don't have the knowledge of the Sharia.
Yes.
So there is that problem. And some have the knowledge of the Sharia, they don't have the knowledge of the Western economic system. So having people with both knowledge is a challenge for now, which I believe with time it is changing.
Yes,
that's what the Institute does. The Institute ensures that we raise and go after members, new members coming up. We do a lot of training, a lot of money, a lot of advocacy, a lot of research, and a lot of consultancy to making sure that more and more people get to become aware of Islamic finance, and they will patronize it. And another very important feature of Islamic finance is that it is not religious bias.
Right.
Anybody, once you are ready to abide by its principles, you are welcome.
You're good to go.
It doesn't say it's a Muslim, it's a Christian, it's a Igbo, or it's Hausa, it's Europe. No.
So
it doesn't talk about
everyone.
that. Everyone can come in. Because it is Rahmatan lil Alamin, is a mercy for the entire world.
How do you think Islamic finance is working towards boosting the economic system of Nigeria? How do you think it's going to help elevate poverty in the country?
Thank you very much. The only challenge that the existing Islamic finance institutions are facing now is capacity to supply, because the demand is so huge. And how many entrepreneurs can just walk into any bank and secure loan or funds? Right. Because the terms and conditions are so consuming that unless you are very strong, you cannot get loan. But in Islamic financial institutions don't look at whether you have what it takes financially. What they are interested in is your intellect, the soundness of your idea, and how your idea can contribute to the economy. So once you have maintained some level of transaction with non-interest financial institutions, they are ready to come on board. If the idea is sound and is ethical and is Sharia compliant, they are ready to assist you. So most of our entrepreneurs, they can go to any of the non-interest financial institutions and they can do business with them. Because they will not be bothered by, okay, go and bring collateral. All this don't happen in Islamic finance. Yes. You understand? Or who is this? No. Yes. Once your idea is sound and it is feasible, workable,
you make the requirements.
You make the requirements, you are welcome.
Mr. Chichimi, I would like you to give us insight on what Halal Expo is about. I mean, this is the second time you guys are hosting it, and you definitely have something in mind, what you aim to achieve. Could you let us know what you aim to achieve and how far it's going?
Well, of course, we're beginning to, of course, before you set out on a journey, you already have objectives, missions, your goals. And part of the objectives is to promote and increase the level of awareness in the halal industry. The halal industry is quite huge. In the global market, it's worth over 7.3 trillion USD currently, and over 4-5 years ago, it was worth over 3.2 trillion USD. So it tells you how far the industry is growing. And currently, I would say we're even beginning to achieve our set goals faster, because the part of it is to increase the level of awareness, and secondly, drive international participation in terms of the relevant stakeholders from the international bodies. And as you can see, a lot of them are here. We have the partnership and collaboration and support of the Islamic Chamber of Commerce Halal Services, and also the Islamic Chamber of Commerce. We have the Standard Meteorology Institute for Islamic countries, that's the SMIC, which is the overall body for setting standards. Just like we have here the SON, Standardization. So we're talking about an overall body that sets standards for the 52 OIC countries. So that's to tell you that it's huge, for us to have the presence, and the grace of His Excellency, the General Secretary of SMIC, being on our podium. It's actually a huge success for us. And of course, we have lots of industry stakeholders from various parts of Nigeria, various parts of Africa. And most importantly is to ensure that we have Nigeria on the halal industry map, which of course we have started, with this kind of audience, with this kind of participation.
The expo is to create awareness for the halal ecosystem in Nigeria, and then to have an interaction with the other players in the space in order to create the ecosystem. That's the essence.
Please, sir, I would like you to tell us what you're here for and what's your stand on.
All right. Basically, this is a halal conference and exhibition, and it, brings about everybody under the halal economic space. And as certification body, we play a very active and critical role in this, because we certify, products, services, and other things that, that are being used by the consumers within the halal, within the halal ecosystem. And we are here as exhibitors, as participants, and as partners to the, organizers of this very important program.
How do you think this is going to help in broadening awareness in the Islamic banking system?
Well, of course, it's going to, in a lot of ways. Like, for example, you have the Lotus Capital. We have a lot of Islamic finance institutions who already keyed into this event, either by being a visitor, or by being a participant, or in different ways. So the awareness is growing. And of course, I think we'll be having the discussion on Islamic finance, Islamic banking. So a lot of people will get to understand how it works and what they need to do and all that. So this program is also meant to, increase that level of awareness, because the process of production also starts from financing. Halal production starts from financing itself, because if your process of acquiring the finance for your project is not halal, that means your product is not going to be halal. So those are the level of awareness that we're bringing into it.
Welcome to the educational segment of Islamic Finance Weekly, the segment that aims to enlighten you on certain tenets of the Islamic banking system that you don't know or you would want to know better on. And on this episode today, we'll be talking about Istisna and its role, or how it is properly utilized by the Islamic banking system. And today with us is Mr. Ayon Leary Ismail, the head of retail, Nur Takaful Insurance Limited.
Istisna is an Islamic mode of finance, a non-participating mode of finance. And of course, it could be financed through an Islamic bank. So where somebody intends to manufacture a particular product over a period, he does not have the money, he doesn't have the finance, So it will approach an Islamic bank for that particular financing. And of course, there could be the contractor who is going to do the manufacturing. So the manufacturing of that particular asset will be within a particular period of time. And of course, it must be specified. So when the amount that is involved is known, an Islamic bank will be approached to finance such. So the period of that manufacturing and how much that manufactured good is going to cost, all of these items will be clearly spelled out ab initio from the beginning of the contract. So when the contractor now goes into the process of manufacturing, being financed by the Islamic bank, based on the agreed terms and conditions, within that period, the bank will have financed it. The payment could be made in parts, or as the project, goes on, payments are made, so that when the manufactured product is delivered at the end of the day, of course, the contractor will have done his part. The customer in question will have acquired a particular manufactured asset, and it will have been financed by the bank within that period. For the role an Islamic bank plays, it's more of the Islamic bank are the one that is going to finance the project, because the customer does not have the money. He equally does not have the expertise to manufacture this good, but there's a contractor that does that. The bank now financed that particular project, and the customer gets it at the end of the day. So a bank is playing an intermediate role in this case, because as I've just said, I can view it from the point of view of what I call a parallel salam, where the bank comes in to fund the project. The customer is the person that actually wants that project to be done, and he doesn't have the money. And of course, a contractor comes in to execute the project. So the bank is acting as an intermediary in ensuring that that project is funded from the beginning to the end. There are three basic things that are normally involved when it comes to Islamic finance as it relates to Istisna. Because like I said, Istisna is a mode of Islamic finance. Now, when it comes to Istisna, three things must be very clear and present in such. One, we have to have the contractual parties. The contractual parties. There must be an offer, there must be an acceptance. Number two, there must be a subject matter in this case, which is, of course, the project, or the asset to be manufactured, or the manufacturing process that is going to be done in relation to a particular project. That's number two. I've mentioned offer and acceptance. I've mentioned the contracting parties, the two contracting parties, and I've equally mentioned, of course, the subject matter, which is the project to be executed. And before that could be done, of course, like I've earlier mentioned, the person who is a customer might not have the funding. So it involves the bank in the funding of the project in question. And at the end of the day, it is delivered to him. But of course, these three factors that I've just mentioned, the contracting parties, the offer and acceptance, and the subject matter must be clearly spelled out. And of course, it should be devoid of one thing. There mustn't be any form of interest element in it. It must be very clear. There shouldn't be any form of garar, uncertainties associated with it. And at the end of the day, there shouldn't be any form of unethical funding, as it were. So these are part of the things that makes it clearly different when we want to compare with the conventional funding or the conventional note that we know in the conventional banks. Now, let us look at Istisna first. Then we'll compare it to Salam. Both of them are non-participating mode of Islamic finance. But majorly, when it comes to Istisna, the contract is about manufacturing of what? Goods. It goes with manufacturing, it goes with construction. When you want to employ Istisna to fund a particular project, basically it has to do with manufacturing. But when it comes to salam, it's basically about agricultural goods. The same way you fund Istisna is the same way you fund in salam, but for salam, it's peculiar to agricultural goods or natural resources, as it were. And for salam, basically, funding is taken care from the beginning. You have to make that, you have to pay in full. You know exactly the kind of agricultural produce to be delivered in a future date, maybe an hectare of a cultivation that involves an hectare of maize. You would have known the specification right from day one. The payment will be made for in full before the farmer goes into that particular before the farmer goes into, cultivating the crop and delivering it when he actually does the harvest. So you will have made that payment in full. But when it comes to Istisna, it is peculiar to manufacturing. When you want to embark on a project of manufacturing, and of course, payment is not made in full at the beginning. You can make your payment instrumentally. When the project goes on, when a phase of that particular project is completed, payment could be made, and it could be like that till the end of it before delivery of the project to the customer. But in terms of salam, like I've earlier mentioned, payment is always made in full from the beginning, and it's peculiar to agricultural produce. Okay, one major risk that I can quickly bring up when it comes to Istisna is the failure to eventually deliver the project to the end. We're talking about manufacturing from the beginning. I want to go into a project of manufacturing. It has been clearly spelled out from day one, but at the end of the day, due to one reason or the other, the project might not be completed by all parties involved. That's one major risk. So there could be a default, not completing that project as stipulated. So that's a risk that could be associated to Istisna. Again, when it comes to the funding of Istisna, even though it will have been agreed that from day one, an Islamic bank is coming in to fund that project within the stipulated period, and at some points, the funding might cease due to one reason or the other. So one, non-completion of the project is a risk that could be associated with the Istisna, and the aspect of funding too, an issue or two might happen that might lead to that funding not, adhered to, and as a result, the project in question might not be completed. So, and this could easily be due to what I can term as a moral hazard on the part of the contracting parties. When we look at the tail end of an Istisna, we are talking of a project of manufacturing. Take, for example, I might want to construct a building that I might want to use to assist students in the university, maybe for the purpose of accommodation. I might not have the money, but I have that idea. And of course, I approach an Islamic bank, for that particular for the funding process. And of course, I would have had my plan of exactly what I need to construct and how many rooms, I want that building to have. At the end of the day, when I'm able to execute it using Istisna, using the Islamic bank for the funding, employing a contractor that does that from start to finish, when that building is eventually erected, it's going to be beneficial to so many people in terms of accommodation and otherwise. So I just use that as an example. So we can now begin to think of so many projects that could be constructed where people will begin fully employed, and by the time that project is fully executed, it becomes a source of livelihood for so many people.
I hope you've learned more about Islamic finance and how it could be of value to you and the society at large. Don't forget to keep it to date with us next week on the program. Follow us on all our social media platforms showing on the screen. And thank you for watching.